All right, welcome to Culture Couch Live this week. We got Macca. Hello, James. Hello, Jared. How are we?
Hey, Rizzy.
G'day, Rizzy.
How are you, mate?
Good, very well, very well. And we've got a guest, Terry Welch from Mildura Hospital, the CEO of one of our clients. So we're going to have a really good conversation today with Terry. And Terry, I might throw to you straight away, actually, because you've had a really good journey around culture and behaviours and leadership, and we've really enjoyed the work we've just recently started with you. But maybe just for the listeners, tell us a bit about when that became really, really important to you. And obviously, everyone's been through a difficult journey, particularly the last 2 years, but probably, the hospitals have been as affected as anyone through this process. So probably two questions to start. When did it sort of dawn on you that culture was so important? And maybe just run us through the last couple of years from that point of view.
Thanks, Ruzi, and g'day, Murph and Macca, and it's great to be with you on the couch or the virtual couch today in what is extraordinary weather here in Victoria. Let's add that as well. Culture is an interesting thing, Ruzi. I've been a CEO now for well over a decade, and this is my third health service, if you like. And it's become apparent as soon as you become a CEO that you can do anything you like. You can talk about anything you like. You can talk strategy till you're blue in the face. But if you don't have a team with you and you don't have that culture, outcomes just won't come from it. And, that is something that I still live by today. So irrespective of this is my third health service or fourth health service, culture has to be, in my mind, key focus, because with great culture comes great outcomes and comes great people. So, here at Mildura Public Hospital, we took over 2 years ago as a new entity as the health service transitioned back from private to public. And, without all the technicalities, we were a new entity, but we took over 950 staff who had, 20, 30 years of work practice and culture. So for us, we started a journey with a workforce who were used to working one way, and we were wanting to transition to another. So that was when our values work started here. It was day one. So right from day one in discussions with the executive and with the entire workforce, we started to talk about values then. We went on the journey. We created the values, and how we did that was we worked with the team to do that. So I didn't sit down with Janelle McGregor, our ED of People and Culture, and say, right, these are our values. We went out and said, what's important? What is it we want moving forward? And some of them are a bit quirky. To give you an example, one of our values under the heart values behind me is happy. Yeah. But that's what people wanted. This had been a pretty tough workplace. And from that point of view, the joy word came through and all these things. So that's where that came from. And that starts that journey. And you know that better than me. So from that perspective, culture started from there. And we developed the values, we developed the framework, we developed all the technicalities around it so that we could make them live. Because otherwise, values are just a sign on the wall. So from there, it's been a 2-year journey where I couldn't be prouder of what we've achieved in 2 years. All of the metrics and the community engagement measurement, the staff metrics that we use right across health in Victoria are telling us we're on a journey where our culture is performing day by day. Bullying's down, the way we engage with our staff is up, our staff satisfaction's up. And we're now seeing that in recruitment. We're seeing that within performance. So 2 years on, we've made a lot of inroads, but it comes with hard work. It comes with some heavy lifting, as you know, but couldn't be proud of where we sit today.
So Murph, I'll go to you for a minute, because it is a little bit unusual when we come into an organisation as such as Terry's, because they've done so much work, isn't it? Typically, what happens is most companies sort of either bring us in when they've let it slip, particularly over the last couple of years, or they haven't started it, or they're somewhere at the bottom. I mean, it's been really interesting for us as an organisation to go into such a strong culture. Do you want to talk to that as well, Murph?
Mute.
You're on mute, mate. Come on, we've been doing the culture count long enough for you to be able to.
I've just had, I'm in a hotel. I've just finished a session. I'm in a hotel and I've got people walking in the door distracting me here, Ruzi. It's a bit off-putting. The truth about what Terry and his team are doing is that they should be commended, because as it's easy. Well, it's not easy, but to start to implement a program, Terry, that you've put in place, and then you can sort of just let it drift. And so it's a fantastic thing that they're doing in terms of continuing to drive it and not let it stagnate. And I might check back to you in a minute, Terry, to chat about that. But I think you mentioned the signs on the wall, Terry. And we can see the values there, the heart values behind you. And I think that you do this as well as any organisation or company I've ever worked for. So when you drive into the car park, Ruzi and Macca, you see on every post in the car park, Terry, there's a heart values picture. So I don't know how many hearts there are up around the place, but there must be a lot. How many do you know?
Oh, I wouldn't have a clue, Murph, but they're everywhere. It's our most important piece of signage.
Yeah, and so I think, Ruzi, you would agree with this. Sport represents the values really well visually, and I think a lot of companies don't take the time to do what Terry and his team have done is represent the values visually. Now, that doesn't mean to say you're going to live them, but at least it's a really good way of making the team think or understand how important they are. So I think that's really important, Terry, and the visual representation of it. So I'm interested from your perspective, is that you've been a couple of years down the road of doing the values, but you've started working with us. Why did you do that? So what was your modus operandi in terms of bringing us in, even though you're going really well? Like, we love working with you because it's a high performing team, Ruzi.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, I think, Murph, at the end of the day, it's critical that you continue, and this has been my learning now, third organisation, that it's not person dependent. And where I get very concerned is the 2 years of the values has come from, yes, my office, from the executive team, right through the board, through to the, what is 1,150 plus staff now. Yep. And we talk our values every day, but that can only carry so far, because what I like to do is when I leave Mildura-based public hospital, I want my legacy to be, these values are here in 20 years' time and they're living and they've got a pulse. So that's when I continually sit back and think, well, who can we work with and partner with to come in and show us different ways of engaging the next layer of management, making sure it's continuing to flow through the organisation. Because once you get your leaders and great leaders, and we're recruiting great people, once we get them absolutely value aligned, well, it doesn't matter. I'm irrelevant in the process. So I've driven it hard for 2 years, but I don't want this to be about me. I want it to be about the organisation. As I say, in 15 years' time, I want to be able to look at their People Matter survey results and just see a high-performing culture, clinically performing really well, engaged strongly with the community. So to me, it's about looking at what we need, and we need to move not from an issue. We don't have an issue. We want to continue to move forward, and we bring in experts to help us with that. So that's absolutely our focus.
Right.
And Mac, I'll throw to you. I mean, you've been in a big organisation, and the visual side of it is really important. Why do you think it's more important in sport? Because we can see it here behind Terry as well. What lends sport to be able to do it, and not so much in that visual sense? Because, as Murph said, it's a really good reminder for everyone when they see it. But if we don't display it, we talk about processes and systems.
Yep. I mean, what I wanted to say on the visual piece is that visual management is, in a corporate sense, is underutilized, but it is so powerful. In sport, I think, the difference with sport is that, you've got a sort of a style of play. You've got a club that's known for, certain attributes, and its values become evident in just the way that, the media, with the way we see the engagement with the club. But to Terry's point, sorry, I
was going to say, or not,
or not exactly, Murph.
But it is visual. You're right. The game is visual. I suppose you're right. It's a good point you bring up, because the game itself is visual, so it lends it. So you can see it on.
You can see it.
I talk about this a lot, Macca. even if you don't follow sport, it's great to go to the MCG and you can visually see a business. That's a really good point.
No, it is. I mean, you can see even watching, and I go to a lot of footy, but you can see even the way that the coaching group walk out, or the people that are around the team, how they engage, pre the game, during the game. It's sort of evident whether it's a command and control or whether the culture's owned, within the playing group and within the supporter group. But the thing that I always love to see and establish or find out is the systems and the way that different organisations do embed their values, as opposed simply to our facilitation engagements. Terry, have you got things that you've seen your people pick up and systemize that that delight you, I suppose, in the 2-year journey that you've had so far?
Yeah, it's a great point, and I couldn't agree more. I think sport is an incredible way to watch values work and not work. And I would not name any clubs or anything today, but there's been incredible value misalignment, and you see the disaster. You see, modern day coaches, and I'll say I'm a Collingwood fan. I watch McRae very closely. His emotional intelligence, connection with his players, what has come from that is a transformation. So, I think there's a learning there. But what we've done, Mac, absolutely, is we have put things behind the values. So, for example, when we interview people, the first 5 questions are value based.
Yeah.
So we're not interested in what you are technically. You could be the very best neurosurgeon, the very best anyone. You could be the best CEO in the world. I'm not saying I am. I'm just saying you could be. But if you are not a good person, if you do not fit our values, you will not get in the door. Because the last thing we want to do is let in a culture vulture. And I use that term regularly because it only takes 1 or 2 to suck the life out of your organisation. So from that point of view, we have protection mechanisms everywhere to ensure that at no stage does anyone slip through the cracks. Now, inevitably, with the size of the recruitment we're doing, it may happen. But I'm confident with when you are doing values assessed, interviewing, that's one protection. If I could show you my wall here, we have behaviours aligned to our values. And it is what we do and what we don't do. And that's what Murph was referring to. You walk in the front door of our organisation, we have told the community what we will do and not do. So, it's about building the systems behind, about how you recruit, how you reward people. So who are the custodians of your culture? How do you reward those who are doing a great job? And it's not always with money. People aren't interested in just money. A simple thank you goes a long way, as well as how you also manage those who are not aligned. And that is the other key point. Don't permit and promote that bad behaviour and that value misalignment. And that's been a key milestone for us.
I was just going to ask Terry one question. I mean, I want to say the voice of the customer, but community and patients and the Mildura environment, what's the feedback been to you and to your team from the community?
Yeah, it's a great question, Macca. And when we first took over, you have to understand this was a heavily politicised transition. So it was a really hotly debated, probably for 5 years, whether this agency would transition back or not. And I wasn't here for any of that. So what that does is naturally when you get that type of constant consternation in the press and media and social media, it drags the image of the organisation down. And we have had to do an enormous amount of work to rebuild the trust in the brand. And we've done that through really strong levels of transparency. So if you look at our Facebook page, if you look at all of our LinkedIn pages of the executive of the organisation, we're constantly out talking to the community. We're media regularly. We've become an open door, and we've been able to then share stories. We are not perfect. No hospital is perfect, but we're able to share how we're trying to progress, and community trust has built. And we see that, for example, in our Facebook page. When we first put a post on 2 years ago on social media, we battened down the hatches for what comments would come.
Yeah.
2 years on, we don't even filter the comments because we've transitioned the thought process that much. And, we now have community reaching out. I was very honoured to speak at the Memorial Day service for police recently, and we're doing a lot of community engagement pieces. And that just continually reinforces the fact that, we are the people's hospital. We are a community hospital, and we have to keep that focus. And, I think we've made a huge inroad in 2 years, and we'll continue to do with, our work with the community.
That's great.
I think you made a great point, Terry, is bringing people inside the tent. Like two things I'll pick up on is fundamentally what we believe in. Don't leave culture to chance. So you have to put systems in place. And most people want systems. I think that's the biggest myth, that people fundamentally want to come to work and understand what the systems are. But more importantly, they want to be part of creating the system. Talk to that.
Well, and it's not only that, they want to be cared for, Paul. So quite often we see Terry and everyone puts I'm just using me as an example, but on person X, and everyone thinks, no, he doesn't have feelings, emotions, and the like. What we found is bringing people into the tent and actually showing we care for them. We respect them. We'll listen to them. Won't always agree. Great to have a debate, but all of the things that make that really healthy. And where we've needed to, we've wrapped our arms around people. And I think this is the key context. Don't have the value of empathy like we have the value of empathy if you're not going to wrap your arms around people. And I don't care who it is. We will wrap our arms around people. We created a welfare fund here and have done some of the most incredible things that I can never talk about for people. And if you think about it in this context, Paul, we have 950 female staff. So I always use this example that the statistics show 20% of at any one time, there is a female in some form of family violence. So if we go conservative and say 10%, or if I go super conservative, which would be well under the odds and say 5%, there are 45 staff here right now in some form of family violence. And that is a huge focus for us. So we have that welfare lens right across the organisation constantly. So that's the level we're at now. We've matured that much through our empathy lens that we are supporting people at all levels through that type of thinking and support, and staff are reaching out, trusting us to help. So they're the things that now I'm sitting here 2 years on really proud of and want to keep building with yourselves and others. So our culture just continues to improve.
It's the care thing too, Murph, isn't it? That's probably the thing that people don't fully understand still about footy clubs, because Macca and Murph, it's when we read about a footy club, it's someone got suspended or the leadership group kicked their ass or something happened here. But what gets missed is the follow-up, Murph. And I know you talk to that a lot. The care now inside of a good footy club, Terry, to your point, is probably the thing. I think most people understand now in the public sector about leadership groups and how we pick our captains now and standards and all that sort of stuff. But Murph, I still think there's this missing piece about the care piece in the AFL footy clubs, isn't there?
Yeah, but even in the corporate sector, Ruzy, because this morning, in the session this morning, I don't know if you could hear it, over in Hawaii, because it's pretty difficult when you're on Zoom, but one of the people said about the behaviours, and we were chatting with a large group of over 50 people. One of them said, those behaviours look a bit soft to me. Perhaps we need to make them more assertive and more aggressive. I was like, I'm not sure you've been listening, mate, because we talk about, I didn't say that obviously, but we had to realign them, because I'm with you. The thing that stuck out most to me in the conversation with Terry has been the care in transforming people to make it, to live the values if they weren't previously, care to transform people out of the organisation, the care that we're providing through the fund for our staff, and 100%. When we have conversations with people, we have to give them a way forward, and then we have to support them in that path forward. It's really easy to have difficult conversations with people, but it's much harder to give them the path forward, and even harder to support them. And unless you're supporting them on the path forward, don't bother giving them feedback, because all you're doing is just basically.
Well, the feedback doesn't really for them then, is it? It's just to get something off your chest. That's all it is. I don't really care about. I'm just giving feedback because it makes me feel better. Mac, I'll just let you finish on something. So what I love, Terry, too, is, and I used to have this debate with the first person I worked with at Sydney, that if we do our job correctly, then I won't be here. That's garbage, because culture is iterative. We need to, and I know some people get frustrated because either the one-day workshop, but we have to make it an ongoing matter, don't we? It can't be just a one-day workshop. It's got to be a program that goes over a period of time. And really, it's an infinite program, really, isn't it? Because culture.
It is, and I think we've heard Terry reflect the fact that there's always, you're always reviewing your values and your behaviours. You may not actually look to change them, but you'll be always reviewing them. So it becomes a cycle or a circle where, and of course, then you're bringing on the newcomers, the people that have joined since last team review. So it's always moving, it's always being reviewed, it's always in play. And one other thing I observed about what you've said there, Terry, time is a resource that we're all limited by, but you're investing your time in that care element. And I think that's why the results just keep coming through, is that care element, and we're big on that in PBD, is just gold dust. And congratulations. It sounds like things are going really well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, thanks.
I think the time thing, Terry, just pick up on that because...
Sorry, Terry, you're getting a few emails there, are you, mate? Or...
No, I'm getting some notifications.
Facebook posts.
But I just want to quickly, just to finish up, Terry, on the time factor, because people sometimes think, if I meet with someone or I have a coffee with them, gee, that's taking up time. It's actually saving time, isn't it? Like if you invest in people and culture, in the long run, you save time.
Well, my view is, Brucey, pretty simple. I mean, if you don't make that time, what are you doing? You know, I mean, you can have all the plans you want. You will not achieve them, and then all you're doing is crisis management. So the way I looked at it is, I've got an executive I trust and delegate. They do their job brilliantly. They can make a mistake and I'll have their back. They know that. You know, the board work beautifully. So that I have time. So to give you an example, I don't care who it is. If they start at any level of management in this organisation, I have a coffee with them and their executive lead.
Yeah.
The whole discussion's about values, right? How are they going to drive values in their group? And it might be a team of 5, it might be a team of 50. And it just sets the expectation. Also says to them, we can make mistakes, we're going to try things, we're going to, there's nothing worse in my mind than I talk to some CEOs and they put the notch in the belt. I move someone else on, I move this on, and I say to them, well, what did you do for them?
Yeah.
What did you do to try and save them?
Yeah.
Because nothing annoys me more. So, my view is you have to make time. You have to help people try and succeed from day one. And I welcome nothing more now than I get probably an email a day from a staff member with a suggestion, with an idea. Well, that's my job, to make time to follow that up. And when that's working, things are going pretty well.
I think that's another thing, Ruzi. If you look at Sydney and Geelong in the grand final, another thing that drives the longevity of culture is that induction that you're talking about there, Terry, the spending time with people when they come in, so that you're taking away any opportunity for them to behave badly or not to live the values. If you make it clear right at the beginning through that induction process, which again takes a little bit of time, but it does demonstrate care, and it takes the chance out of people then deviating off the path that you hope they'll take.
Yeah, and I think, Murph, the biggest learning that I've had with that is your values have to be relevant. So in 2 ways, you have to be able to use them. So you have to be able to speak to them. I see a lot of agencies with values and I think, God almighty, how would I get up in front of a group and explain what that value means? So from that point of view, we have heart, which is just so simple to then follow everywhere and everyone can speak to it. So that's been a learning as well over the years, is don't complicate your values to the point whereby someone will struggle to interpret. Have a look at the Victorian public sector values. I mean, good luck trying to explain them. They're very important, but trying to explain them to an orientation program would be very different. Whereas the heart values, I can talk about them underwater because they're so easy to do. And everyone at the management team and the organisation could do it. So that to me has been a really key learning over many, many years.
Great. Fantastic. Good way to finish. So, mate, thanks very much for coming on. We really enjoyed starting work and looking forward to continuing working with you. Really good discussion around systems. And I love the initiation, because football clubs again, Murph, do that really well. Initiating people, getting people the same values. Then you don't have a huge gap. It's so simple, but often we overlook that and we get people with different values and we sort of expect them to, change their values. So much easier getting people with similar values, and then we work collectively. So, mate, fantastic, great discussion. We really appreciate you being on the Culture Couch Live. So, thanks to Terry, thanks Macca, and thanks Murph, and we'll see you all again next
Just
week.
before we let Terry go, Ruzi, you mentioned Collingwood earlier. Do you think that they just got on an emotional roller coaster and just kept going, and they'll be able to sustain it next year, or do you think they're going to fall in a big hole and finish about, I don't know, 16th?
No, I think momentum like that's hard to stop, if you're my honest opinion, Murph. Now, I've got no doubt the draw will come up against them a bit next year, but I don't think it will matter. Even if they have a bit of a step back next year, I get the sense their leadership structure there is such that it won't be throw the toys out of the cot. There's maturity, they've got value alignment, and they'll just adapt and move forward. So I think the next 1 year to 5 years of Collingwood now, I couldn't be more excited about what that looks like, because they've got a leadership structure there, which is about the club, the people, the families, and that's what will make them successful. So, don't measure it on 1 year. Let's look what a 5-year journey looks like. I think would be really an interesting test case.
Well, let's hope you're right.
Yeah, I was going to say very articulate, Terry, but
Thanks, boys.
nothing worse than excited Collingwood supporters.
No, mate.
No, he's done an amazing job, Craig. Mate, well done to him. I just wonder the Brody Grundy one. I don't know. We touched on that before. Geez, a good player to let go for pick 27, but we could have another conversation around that, Murphy. Next week, maybe.
It's not about the individual.
We should do trade week as a values-based conversation, Ruzi. That actually would be quite interesting.
That would be fascinating, 100%. All right, we better wrap it up. Culture Couch Live. We'll see you all next week. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Terry.